Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Holly Poole. I'm a professional astrologer and also a healthyologist. So today we're going to come forward and we're going to talk about the month of July. And right now, as I am speaking, I'm doing this at the very ending part of June. We're finishing off June with Saturn going to start to retrograde. So let me share my screen here so I can actually show you where we are right at this point in time. I'm starting on July 1st. I'm actually recording in very late July, very late June. I'm having a time warp, obviously. But by the 1st of July, we will have had Saturn start to retrograde. Saturn's an interesting planet in the sign of Pisces. Saturn rules Aquarius and Saturn rules Capricorn. So Saturn's used to dealing with structure and alignment and so on. One of the things that we start out the month with is, let's see if I can get my drawing tool there, is, of course, always the nodes are opposing each other. You always got the polarity of the nodes. On the 1st of July, the North Node, looks like a wig, the North Node is at 11 degrees Aries, and the South Node is at 11 degrees Libra. It's always important when you look at your own natal chart to see where your personal node, so where the one that looks like a wig and the one that looks like an upside down wig is, because the North Node is connected to our purpose in life. And then the South Node, when I do life coaching with people, lots of times people settle into, in their natal chart, they settle into their South Node. It is what they know. It is the knowledge that the soul is coming forward with. That's not where I want you in this lifetime. I want you with the North Node. And so also, of course, the planets still continue to move around after we are born. I probably say this every video. And for the last year or so, the North Node has been going through Aries, with the South Node going through Libra. So the South Node in Libra, again, over this last year and a bit, has really been focusing a lot on relationships. Doesn't matter what astrological sign you are. You can be a Taurus, you can be a Scorpio, you can be a Sag, you can be a Gemini, you can be all of the various signs. But the focus has been on relationships. And the relationships in Libra, of course, is all about the fact of who around me brings in balance and peace and harmony. So over this last year and a half, you may have even found yourself changing a bit of your relationships. As we evolve, as we grow to be better people, as we evolve in life, we sometimes end up leaving people behind. Sometimes our contracts with these people are done. If you're brand new here, I'm an evolutionary astrologer, and so I believe we make contracts with people before we come to life, when people enter our life, but also when people leave our life. And when people leave our life, that doesn't entirely mean they die or they move away. It just means you yourself may find yourself pulling away, or you may find they will pull away. That's usually an indication that the contract is now done. Maybe it's a karma contract. Maybe it's a point in time where people just came together to sort of help each other make it through the next part of the journey. But there has been a huge focus on that. And we're still in the South Node in Libra. We still are in the South Node in Libra up until roughly the ending part of 2024. Then the South Node is going to go into Virgo and the North Node into Pisces and so on. But we'll get there. Also, at that same time, we have the polarity of the North Node in Aries. Now, Aries and Libra is what we call cardinal signs. And with the sun on that first day of July, with the sun is at 10 degrees Cancer, also a cardinal sign. So that sun that will be up in the sky will actually have a square to the South Node, will have a square to the North Node, and a square to the South Node. So we say then that the sun on that particular day, and even on the second, we got the same thing going on, the sun is square to the nodes. I don't really like that kind of an alignment because there becomes a bit of on-doing when we have any planets in the bendings, square to the nodes. The sun will be in the sign of Cancer. So I'm going to, what do we know about the sign of Cancer? Cancer is that motherhood, mothership, mothering, mother connection. So I want everyone that 2nd of July to actually be extremely aware and very conscious of how much mothering you are doing to the people around you. And I smile because my mother is 91, and last year we went to Newfoundland. And, I guess my moon is in Cancer. So sometimes I can do a bit of that over mothering. And I would say, Mom, can I get you your cereal? Can I get you your coffee? Can I get you this? Can I get you that? Would you like this? Would you like? Finally, she said, Holly, please stop it. I don't like the way this is going. My mother's a Sag, so it's in the head and out the mouth. Sometimes not a lot of thought put behind that. I don't like the way you're mothering me, so please stop it. So on that July 1st, I hear a lot of you laughing on that. On that July 1st and July 2nd, be very aware of that. Doesn't matter what sign you are, we're going to have that sense of that tendency in order to feel that overwhelming sense of doing. And doing and helping, there's a fine line there. And Cancerians have a hard time on that line. Cancerians, Pisces, a lot of our water signs have a very difficult time in trying to draw the line as to when you're actually helping and when you're actually hindering. One of the things that I, over the last year, have been trying to work my way through is not to jump in and help unless somebody asks me, could you help me? I am more than happy to do that at that point in time. But rather than being a bit overbearing, sometimes it's a good idea to just kind of step back. So the next place we're going to go, we are watching, of course, the moon here on that 1st of July. The moon is at 19 degrees Taurus. So it's kind of right in a bit of the middle between Uranus and Mars. It's not at the midpoint because we were out of bounds there, but it's sort of bringing Mars and Uranus together. And this we'll talk about this because we will get there around that mid-May-ish point. We'll talk about this Mars and Uranus coming together, because Mars and Uranus don't really entirely make really good bedfellows. Mars is the planet of aggression. Uranus is the planet of unexpected events. But I'll talk more on that as we make our way through. So where we are on that 1st of July, we're heading towards our new moon. We're not there yet. We are getting there. We're just past a bit of the sextile of it. But you're going to find that there will be unexpected events. That moon will be igniting Mars and Uranus and saying, go ahead, do it. Go ahead, try it. Go ahead. Be careful. Remember that Sun at that point in time will be in the bendings. Don't offer to help and save and fix unless somebody asks, could you help me? Because the moon will be needling us on that. So let's directly go to the new moon. And we are actually there on the 5th of July. The 5th of July is our new moon. Now, one of the things you don't hear me talk a lot about is fixed stars. And to be honest with you, it's because it's not something that holds my attention a whole lot. If you yourself is interested in looking further into fixed stars, I think one of the best people for that is a lady by the name of Bernadette Brady. She is from the UK. She is an absolute amazing instructor, and I would think she probably has some things on YouTube. She actually does have a book called Fixed Stars. And I sat in an astrology conference probably 6 or 8 years ago where Bernadette Brady spoke. And I was just enthralled with this lady's knowledge. You know, there's so many rabbit holes to go down into when we work with astrology. And I have many students who go down this rabbit hole and love that part of it, or go down this rabbit hole and maybe get involved in that. You know, there's all kinds of topics. Astrolocality, there's astrometeorology, determining weather connected with astrology, astrolocality, you know, where are some of the best places in the world for you to be, cosmobiology, criminal astrology, where forensic astrology, where you look at the actual crime, and it's just immense. Most people don't know that about astrology, that there are thousands of different spring-offs. And for those of you who study astrology, you will find that some of those will really hold your attention, and perhaps some of them not so much. Now, that's a long way around talking about July 5th, new moon. But there is a fixed star that's actually right at 14 degrees Cancer. And that fixed star is the fixed star called Sirius, Sirius. I think that's how it's spelled. And it's really one of the very brightest stars in the zodiac. It's often called the dog star, just because of the constellation. Now, so that's just fascinating, just all on its own. And the fixed star Sirius is very much connected to fame. You know, a lot of a lot of famous people have a lot of their planets sitting at 14 degrees Cancer. Look in your own chart. Do you have anything at 14 degrees Cancer? Most astrology software, I do have it elsewhere within the software, but I don't necessarily put it on the screen. There are thousands of fixed stars. So one of the things with astrology is that you want to become, when you're studying astrology, you want to become aware that more is not always better. You can get the exact same message with the planets that I already, and a couple of asteroids and so on that I have here on this chart. You can get the exact same reading than if you put in all the fixed stars and all of the other points and Sedna and all of the other newly developed planets. And, you know, and I often think about some master astrologers who say, be careful of becoming overly confused, because it can very much confuse you. So coming back, I can tell this is a bit of a straying day, isn't it? I'm straying off into this topic and I'm straying off into that topic. Keep the focus, Holly. Try to bring it back here. So it will be interesting around that 5th of July to maybe even see on the world stage who is showing a sense of fame that maybe we had not even recognized beforehand. We also want to take note here on the 2nd of July, we also had Neptune start to retrograde. Neptune is sitting at that very ending degree of Pisces. Neptune entered Pisces back in very early 2012. And I don't know, is Neptune getting a little tired of Pisces? Neptune's going to come out of Pisces in 2025. As a matter of fact, 2025 is going to be a very interesting year. We've got so many of the outer planets that have been sitting in the signs they've been in for lots of years. Neptune since 2012, so that's 12 years. And they're going to change signs. Now, when planets change signs, see, here I am varying again. Okay, we're still going to go there though. When planets change signs, they don't just change signs. So, giving an example, Neptune next year will leave Pisces. Pisces is a mutable sign. It's actually going to go into the next sign. Do you know what that is? Aries. So it's going to go into Aries, which is a cardinal sign. So mutable signs are exactly what they say. You can mutate into whatever we feel that other people need us to be. Our mutable signs are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. They are our mutable friends that, as I say, have the ability to be able to mutate and change into. Lots of times with, depending on who they're with, they can become who they think the other individual needs them, wants them to be. So that's what we mean by mutable, the ability to mutate. But Neptune will go into Aries. Aries is a cardinal sign. Aries is not mutable. Aries is the straightforward. Aries is the head of the pack. Aries. So we're moving from the ability to mutate to I'm taking leadership, number one. Number two, we're also going from a water sign, Pisces is water, into fire. Neptune Now, Neptune, first of all, let me say, Neptune rules Pisces. So Neptune loved being in Pisces. Neptune's had a great time. It's brought in tons of creativity. And let me also tell you, in the last 12 years, since 2012, I am willing to bet that there has been born children who will actually become some of the most incredible artists in the world. Because the last time Neptune was in Pisces was the same time that we had like Da Vinci and all of the boys that were great artists. Neptune is going to take a bit of shifting when moving into Aries. Again, let's move back home. Let's move back in time. We also have that new moon here. The new moon is trining. We like trines. Is trining. It's actually going to create a grand trine. It's trining Pallas Athene, and it's trining Saturn, giving us a grand trine. So this watery new moon will bring in a lot of emotions. And one of the big emotions with Pallas Athene is that Pallas Athene will actually look at what it is that is worth fighting for. And you will find yourself, because Saturn in Pisces, you will say, yeah, there might be a lot of work to it. Yeah, I might have to do a fair amount of caretaking or tending or something of that nature. But, Pallas Athene will say it is actually so much involved with regards to it is worth the fight. The friendships, the lovers, the wanting of children, the things that it might cost you in order to buy a new home. It might cost you to buy a cottage, what it might cost you to sell a cottage. Pallas Athene will say, you will take that timing to determine, again, whether it is worth the fight or whether it's not worth the fight. It is that new moon is opposing Ceres, the asteroid goddess Ceres. It is opposing Ceres and asking, should it be mine? Am I claiming exactly what it is that actually over time really is and should be mine to claim? Remember, we're watching this Mars coming up towards Uranus. Mars and Uranus. Now, in astrology as well, I'm going to digress, yes. In astrology, when two planets come together, the outer planets, and yeah, we know Mars is not necessarily considered an outer planet, but when we have two planets come together, that is like it begins a new cycle. So it's kind of like the two of them come together. And then it's like, this one then moves and comes around. And sure, this moves a little bit, but it creates the cycle for when they come back together. So Mars and Uranus is always roughly a bit of a 2-year cycle. So we are visiting 2 years ago. We are looking at Taurus is our finances. Taurus is the connection to the financial world and the financial bonding. So yes, we are looking at perhaps where we were 2 years ago, what some of the thoughts were. Are we seeing any clearing now of being able to purchase that cottage or purchase what it is, or to have children, or to make our home a better place to be? We also, Venus has also, at the last video, I talked about Venus and the sun switching, Venus going from a morning star directly to an evening star. Again, where we are in that very early part of July, Venus is still really getting her groove on with an evening star. She had been a morning star for quite some time, and she was used to being the first one up and the first one bringing up the sunshine. And now she's about closing down of an evening because she has now become an evening star. But until Venus actually does get out of the sign of Cancer and get into the next sign, which is Leo, she will actually, as I said, continue to try and figure out how to now be a very beautiful evening star. She's going to take a bit of that time. And of course, Venus going into Leo, now Venus wants to be seen as beautiful. You will also find yourself even looking to the fact of how can I improve my lips? How can I improve my looks a little bit? Maybe I could get my hair shaped. Maybe I could start wearing a bit of lipstick. Maybe that will be Venus coming in. Venus as an evening star has more of a reflection quality to her. When she's a morning star, she's really about looking forward. But when she's an evening star, she sort of takes a bit of time because she's got really all the daylight hours before she sort of has to come out and perform. So let's now look at, we also have, when we get to that June 6th, nope, I was before that, sorry. I'm watching here to see when Mars actually comes to line up. But one of the big things I want to talk about here before I get there is the 7th of July. And we have what we call a mutual reception. Now, I teach about this in beginner's astrology. And mutual reception is really when there's a wonderful conversation going on. The sun rules Leo, the moon rules Cancer. So what happens here is everybody, the sun is in Leo sign, and the moon is in the Cancer sun. So we call that a mutual reception. That is a lovely day, by the way. That is a lovely day where our head and our hearts are very much doing quite a conversation and communication among themselves. When I get to the 10th, again, we're watching Mars coming up. Mars is only 3 degrees here by the 10th. And the sun right here, let me clear out my drawing there. The sun right here is at 19 degrees Cancer. That sun is squaring where the eclipse was. There was the eclipse that we had on the 8th of April. Remember that solar eclipse that I did so much talking about, and talking about also Chiron, and how Chiron is not really entirely out of that ecliptic energy. Chiron is still working her power directly within that eclipse. And on that particular day, on July 10th, we've got the sun that's squaring it. So some of the doors that we found opening for us on the 8th of April, we're going to go back and revisit that whole entire conversation, because the square says, maybe there is a bit more adjusting that has to happen. Now, by the time we get here, Venus is sitting at 29 degrees Cancer, and it is aligning with Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces. This is such a huge karmic day. There is so much karma that is arising and flowing. Pay attention on that particular day, what your heart is really asking you to do, because the heart pulsing will be working directly with this Neptune, saying, allow yourself to dream. Allow yourself to really be nice to yourself. Let's watch that Mars coming up towards Uranus. Here we are. Both of them are here on the 15th. Now, I've heard lots of astrologers talk about Mars and Uranus and kind of going, I'm worried about that. Well, they're not very strong here. Again, I teach this in beginner astrology. Planets, like, for instance, when Mercury is in the sign of Gemini, Mercury rules Gemini. That makes Mercury really, really, really strong. Communication is really strong, Mercury. When Jupiter is in Sagittarius, Jupiter rules Sagittarius. So it's very, very, very strong in Sagittarius. Neither one of these planets hold much strength. Mars is in its detriment. Mars rules Scorpio, which is straight across from the sign of Taurus. So Mars has lost a lot of its strength. As we said, Mars is in detriment. Uranus is in its fall here. Uranus is exalted in the sign of Scorpio, and straight across we have Taurus. So Uranus is in its detriment. So if you want to think about it, it's almost like you've cut down the power. You've taken the power away from the two of those. Am I expecting any major, massive, big blow up? I suspect we will hear some rumblings, but I'm not really worried about it because, again, we've lost power. What will be very interesting here is to actually see, and I suspect this is on the political stage, and I suspect it's on the political stage, which is all connected around the whole banking thing. Taurus is our banking industry. So I suspect there's a bit of a loss of power that's going on here. So if ABC person may be well ahead in the polls, there may be, because of some previous financial decisions that were made, I suspect we might lose some power. And it might be more likely, even though Mars has gone back past Uranus, I suspect it's more likely to roll out on the 16th versus the 15th, because now you've got the moon in Scorpio pulling straight across from these two planets. Now, I will tell you, as well, as a rule in astrometeorology, and again, I only know about that much. It's not one of my favorite rabbit holes in astrology. But it's quite often when Mars and Uranus do come together, it's quite often that you get some world type of weather event. We also got Saturn here in an inconjunct. Saturn is in an inconjunct with Mercury And Saturn's in a psi-squeeze square alignment with Venus. So again, there's a lot of adjustment that's going to have to be done on that particular day. And that's what I think we're going to see more than anything else, is there will be a fair amount of backpedaling. You will hear a lot of the people, probably politicians, who will be saying things like, did I say that? There will be the backpedaling. But because the moon in Scorpio will have done a lot of the research, there will be information brought forward that people will go, oh, I didn't know that. Watch and see. It also leads me to question if this also comes out with regards to the whole situation that's going on with Boeing, the airline industry. You know, was there financial shortcut that had gone on there that people are now really discovering big time? Then the next kind of big deal is that, you know, Mars is moving on, and Mars is moving into Gemini. Mars moves into Gemini on the 20th. Mars in Gemini makes us speak really fast. Now, Mars is making its way to line up with Jupiter. We will be finding that things will be, you know, things will speed up a lot. In medical astrology, Gemini has to do with the pairs within our body. So our pairs of lungs, our hands, also our nervous system. And so one of the things while Mars is going through Gemini, for our listeners, our friends who deal with a bit of anxiety, Mars coming into Gemini may not entirely be your friend. So I really want you to do a lot of grounding exercises. And I want you to also, I'd like you to make a nice looking sign that says, is it true? And maybe you can make 15 signs and put it all over your apartment, all over your house. Because anxiety is often where we worry about the future. So maybe we can have a few little signs. Is it true? And how do you know it? And stop right there. And things like that, that can be a sense of a reminder. Because when we deal with anxiety, we make up all kinds of stories about how things are going to happen. And really, we don't know that. That's exactly what it is that it's a story. And it's a story that we are making up in our head. So that's why I want the sign of, is it true? You know, let me give you an idea, for instance. So I'm getting ready to go to a new job tomorrow. And I'm sitting down and I'm going through the whole anxiety bit about the fact of, oh, I'm not going to get that. Look at that sign. Is that true? You don't know that? That's just something you're making up in your head. Or, well, I didn't get it last time, so I'm not going to get it this time. Is that true? You're smarter. You've learned more. You've become more adept. You now have more knowledge. So is it true? Probably not. So you take control of you. Don't let Mars take control of you. You take control of you by doing all kinds of these little things, and also the fact of grounding. Grounding, keeping your feet solidly on the ground. Then we come to the next day. Now I've got to come back again and do this by hours because we're coming into This is just going to move by hours. I want to come into the next full moon. Give me just a few seconds here to make this happen. Our next full moon. Our next full moon is 29 degrees. I love the 29 degrees. 29 degrees is such a karmic degree. It is a hugely karmic degree. That full moon will shine such a huge light on people's karmic journey throughout life. How did we end up with the people we're with? What is the karmic piece there? How did we end up in the work, doing the work that we're doing? What is the karmic connection there? How is karma playing out in my life? And that full moon, that will be a beautiful full moon. Venus will be well up in the sky. She's now into Leo. She will fully understand what it's like being an evening star. That full moon will be trining Uranus. So, when Mars and Uranus come together, as we talked about in that mid-July, I probably wouldn't. Mars will want you to jump at things, jump at the chance, jump at the chance, jump at the chance. I'd have a tendency to wait for this full moon. And full moons give us full light. It will give you the light. Pluto is also connecting. And yeah, Pluto is at 0 degrees Aquarius. So we call this an out of sign conjunction. The moon is at 29 degrees. So we got 29 degrees, 30 degrees, and then 0 degrees. So in reality, that's 3 degrees apart. And Pluto has dug down into your history over the last 2.5 years, and really bringing forth all kinds of huge amounts of information. That Pluto is also trining. We do like trines. Trining that Mars. And it will force you to talk about things. It will force you. Mars wants you to lay the cards on the table. Let's be upfront. Let's be honest. Let's say what it is, because that will free the bonds in moving forward. And then we get to the 22nd of July and we say happy birthday to our Leo friends. The sun rules Leo. The sun loves to be in Leo. The sun is asking you to be really creative. It's creating a sextile. We like sextiles. It's creating a sextile with Mars. And it's creating a trine, really, with this Neptune, out of sign Neptune. So there's a lot that is very lovely on the day of the 22nd. The day of the 23rd, now we've got Venus and we've got the asteroid goddess Vesta. Vesta's put up a bit of a gateway to love at this stage. And Venus is going, but I love love. I love being in love. I love the idea of love. I like discovering love. Vesta says, well, I'm guarding it for you. And Venus will have that conversation with her going, let's go back and have a look at that solar eclipse that went on in April. What did you actually promise there? Coming along, then we actually come to the 26th of July, and on the 26th, now Mercury moves into Virgo. I love Mercury in Virgo. Mercury in Virgo is all about that attention to detail. Your conversations, you will find, will hold so much more of that attention to detail. Creates a square with that Mars in Gemini. We don't like squares, but it said, no, you're not talking that fast. Nope, you're not going to have that conversation too quickly. I want the attention to detail, and we're going to work out a solution here. You're not going to get away with that just as much as you think you will. And then as we end off July, we of course have a little bit of a tanglement with the moon and Mars, but it does create a sextile. Again, we like sextiles. It does create a sextile with the sun in Leo, and love will prevail. The sun is also creating a trine. Again, we like trines. The sun is also creating a trine with that north node in Aries, on the ability of having ourself see ourself moving its way forward. North node in Aries says we want to be ahead of the pack. We want to be the person out there. And that takes us through the timing of July. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming and spending the time with me. I know that out there in today's world, there's lots to keep our attention. And thank you for coming and spending your time with me. And I look forward to seeing you again. Take care, everyone.